What happens when two of entertainment's most outspoken personalities sit down for what should have been a lighthearted conversation, but instead sparks one of the most uncomfortable moments in late night television history? Tonight, we're breaking down the explosive interview between Mariah Carey and Andy Cohen, a moment so tense it left the audience speechless and the host visibly shaken. Mariah walks onto the set looking radiant, draped in a champagne-colored gown that catches every glimmer of studio light. The audience erupts in applause as she glides toward the guest chair, her signature smile perfectly in place. Andy stands to greet her, arms open for a hug. She accepts, but briefly, her posture and expression betraying something beneath the polished exterior. As she sits, crossing her legs with careful precision, the tension is almost imperceptible, but it's there. Andy begins warmly, complimenting her look and thanking her for joining him. Mariah's response is gracious, her voice melodic yet cool. "Thank you. It's wonderful to be here." Anyone familiar with her tone knows it's polite, but not exactly genuine. Andy either doesn't notice or chooses to ignore the subtle warning. He starts with easy questions about her Las Vegas residency, how it feels to be back performing live, reconnecting with fans, and rediscovering the magic of the stage. Mariah answers smoothly, almost rehearsed, speaking about gratitude, passion, and the joy of performing. But just as the conversation seems to settle, Andy pivots. He brings up a tweet she posted months earlier, something cryptic about loyalty and respect in the industry. He smiles as he asks if it was aimed at anyone in particular. The temperature in the room drops. Mariah's smile doesn't fade, but it hardens. "Social media can be interpreted in many ways," she says. "I prefer to let my music speak for itself." It's a graceful deflection. But Andy presses on. He mentions rumors, whispers about Mariah allegedly refusing to share a stage with another pop star at an award show. The audience grows still. Mariah shifts slightly, recrossing her legs, fingers drumming on the armrest. She takes a slow breath before speaking, her tone sharper now. It's interesting how in this industry, when a woman has standards and refuses to compromise, she's called difficult. But when a man does it, he's called a visionary. Andy tries to jump in, clarifying that he wasn't implying she was difficult, but Mariah lifts a manicured hand, stopping him mid-sentence. "I came on this show because I was told this would be a conversation about my music, my artistry, my legacy. Instead, it seems we're here to discuss gossip." The crowd reacts with a low murmur. Andy leans back, smiling nervously. He says his show is about honest conversations, about getting to know the real person behind the fame. Mariah repeats his phrase softly. "The real person behind the celebrity persona." Then her tone turns steel. "Andy, I've been in this industry for over 3 decades. I've sold more records than most artists could dream of. I've set records, broken barriers, and built a legacy that will outlive both of us. The real person is someone who doesn't need to justify her worth by entertaining tabloid nonsense." The tension is electric now. Andy, trying to recover, says he's simply doing what he's always done, creating candid conversations. Mariah laughs, but it's short and sharp. Candid conversations? Or opportunities to create viral moments at the expense of your guest's dignity? Andy insists his show has always been respectful, that he asks what his audience wants to know. "If celebrities don't want to be open," he adds, "maybe they shouldn't agree to interviews." The air goes still. Mariah freezes, eyes locked on him. "So what you're saying," she replies slowly, "is that unless I agree to play along with your gossip session, I shouldn't be here." Andy backtracks, saying that's not what he meant, but the damage is done. Mariah points out that every one of his questions so far has been designed to bait her into drama, not discuss her artistry. "You haven't asked me once about my new album, my songwriting, or the people I'm working with," she says. Andy tries to recover again, claiming there's still time to get into that, but his tone has lost its calm. "Then maybe you should have been honest with my team," Mariah cuts in. "They were told this would be a substantive conversation about my career. If I wanted a gossip session, I'd have gone somewhere else." Andy accuses her of being too sensitive, saying all celebrities face similar questions. The wrong move. Mariah tilts her head slightly. "Overly sensitive," she repeats. "Tell me, Andy, when you have male artists on your show, do you spend most of the interview asking about feuds and relationships? Or do you actually talk about their work?" Andy insists he treats everyone the same, but Mariah is ready. She cites examples of his past interviews with male guests, how the questions were about their craft and vision. Then she contrasts those with his interviews with female stars, which leaned into drama and rumors. The audience sits frozen, completely silent. Andy admits those topics draw the most attention, that his show is entertainment. Mariah nods slowly, her voice calm but cutting. So you're admitting that you steer women toward gossip because it's more entertaining, Andy stammers, trying to clarify. But she's already standing, collecting her small clutch. I think we've already had the conversation you wanted, she says, her voice even. The only difference is I didn't play along. Andy pleads for her to stay, reminding her they still have time left. Walking off will only make it worse, he warns. Mariah turns, her smile cool. Sometimes the most powerful statement you can make is refusing to participate in your own diminishment. She waves to the audience. Thank you for being here tonight. I'm sorry you didn't get the conversation you deserved. As she walks toward the exit, Andy calls out, frustration breaking through. Mariah, come on, this is ridiculous. We're in the middle of taping. She pauses, glancing over her shoulder. Ridiculous, she repeats. Is thinking I'd sit here while you turn this into a circus for ratings? Andy, clearly irritated now, mutters something about how her reaction is exactly why people call her a diva. The entire audience gasps. Mariah stops dead. Slowly, she turns back, gliding toward the stage, her gown shimmering under the lights. Let's talk about that word, she says, voice low but commanding. Diva. She looks directly at Andy. It's fascinating how that term gets weaponized. When a man demands excellence, he's passionate. When a woman does it, she's difficult. Andy insists he uses the term affectionately, that it's a compliment. Mariah shakes her head. You don't get to decide whether it's a compliment or an insult. Words have power. The way you use them tells us everything about your intentions. When you label a woman a diva before she even sits down, you're telling your audience how to perceive her before she speaks. Andy says it's just entertainment, that no one takes it seriously. Mariah steps closer, eyes blazing. That's exactly the problem. People do take it seriously. Young women watch this. They learn that if they set boundaries or expect respect, they'll be mocked for it. That's the message you're sending. Andy, now defensive, insists he's always supported women in the industry. Mariah doesn't miss a beat. Supporting women isn't just giving them airtime. It's how you use that airtime. Every question you asked tonight was about gossip. Not once did you ask about my music. So tell me, how is that support? Andy's tone turns sharp. He says she agreed to appear, that if her team wanted to control topics, they should have made that clear. Mariah laughs, short and bitter. Oh, it was made clear. My team sent a list of off-limit subjects, and somehow every question you asked touched them. So either you ignored those boundaries, or you never cared to begin with. Andy argues that limiting topics ruins spontaneity, that real interviews require honesty and openness. Mariah nods slowly, her tone icy. So respecting a guest's boundaries is incompatible with your version of honesty. That says everything. He insists she's twisting his words. Authentic conversation requires mutual respect, Mariah replies. It means both people feel safe. What you're describing isn't authenticity, it's entrapment. You invite people on, make them comfortable, and then ambush them with gossip they can't respond to without seeming defensive. That's not journalism. That's performance. Andy throws up his hands, insisting she's being unfair, that she's making him out to be the villain. He says other celebrities handle his interviews fine, that maybe the problem is her inability to deal with tough questions. Gasps ripple through the studio. Mariah's expression doesn't change, but her voice drops an octave. Andy, I've done thousands of interviews. I've answered hard questions about my life, my struggles, my triumphs. The difference is that those interviews were conducted with respect. The problem isn't that I can't handle questions, it's that I won't tolerate disrespect dressed up as curiosity. Andy challenges her to name exactly what was disrespectful. Mariah steps back to the chair but doesn't sit. Her hands rest lightly on the backrest as she begins listing his questions, one by one. The tweet, the award show rumor, the loaded language. With each example, she explains how his framing assumed gossip, not truth. Andy tries to defend each one, but his arguments weaken. Mariah pulls out her phone. For a second, Andy looks alarmed, as if she might be recording. Instead, she reads excerpts from other interviews, examples of how genuine journalists discuss artistry without resorting to scandal. Andy scoffs, saying she came in looking for a fight. Yes, she says evenly. I came prepared. Because experience teaches women in this business that they have to. But I shouldn't have to prepare for battle to have a simple conversation about my work. She looks around the studio, her gaze sweeping over the audience, the crew, the host. That's the real problem. Women in this industry know that at any moment, they could be undermined or turned into a headline. We're expected to smile through it, to play along, and when we don't, we're labeled difficult. That's not normal. That's not respect. Andy looks rattled now, defensive but cornered. He mutters that he's always tried to be fair. Mariah gives a faint, almost sympathetic smile. Fairness isn't about equal time, it's about equal respect. And tonight that respect was missing. She adjusts her clutch, glances at the audience one last time, and says, "For the record, Andy, I didn't walk out because I couldn't handle your questions. I walked out because I refused to participate in a system that mistakes provocation for authenticity." With that, she turns and walks off the set. The audience breaks into uncertain applause, some in awe, others stunned. Andy sits frozen in his chair. The camera is still rolling, his attempt to speak drowned out by the buzz of whispers and the echo of her final words. Sometimes the loudest mic drop doesn't come from a performance. It comes from knowing exactly when to walk away